And here's our last little piece of the standard library. This is limits.h and float.h. These macros for the preprocessor are actually just there so that you can use them should you need to know, or your program needs to know what is the maximum value that a character or an integer or a long can hold, and then you can make possibly a decision in your code to use an unsigned or something like that. It mostly came from trying to keep your variables as small as possible and use a minimum amount of memory so that you didn't declare an integer if you could do everything you wanted to in a short or even in a character. With the huge amounts of RAM that we have these days, it's really not all that necessary. It can, of course, be necessary if you're writing embedded code or something along those lines where you need to keep things as small and tight as possible. But generally, we unfortunately don't worry about those kinds of things that much anymore. But limits.h and float.h are still required to be there, and they do have these values hard-coded by the system that the compiler has been installed on. So they are very implementation dependent. And if you looked at the limits or float H on a mainframe versus a micro versus a whatever other kind of mini system in between, you might find you'll see somewhat different values for these. You won't run across them very often in your typical coding or looking through code for maintenance, but I just wanted to show you that they are out there and they are available for your enjoyment. So that's the end of the standard library and pretty much the end of our video series. We're going to have a wrap-up video for a little bit of review coming up here, and I really enjoyed presenting this to you, and I hope you enjoyed learning some more about the C programming language. So I'll see you over in the review area.